Yogi Berra said, you know what? It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future, in all his wisdom. And so my future direction is, again, just my thoughts and from conversations and listening and learning in the 6 months that I've been in the chair. And so here's what I'm going to share with you, and it's still evolving, and I invite your feedback and other suggestions. In the coming year, Women's Funding Network will be focused on its role as a catalyst, convener, and coordinator, providing space where Women's Fund, in all their diversity and experience, can come together to forge innovative initiatives and scale progress. We have put member services at the center of our priorities with the goal of increasing our value proposition to our entire membership. While we focus on creating more opportunities for women's funds to convene, I'm reminded when using, I learned convening at WFN too. As Judy Belk said recently, it used to be just having meetings, but we convene now. At the same time, we're going to be creating this space for convenings. We'll also be accelerating our efforts to enhance knowledge building through collaborative research, leadership development, and advocacy so that our work informs the field, and we are creating the change we want to see in the world. We hope to develop a model for WFN learning communities with member funds working together on funded initiatives so that our work with members is more clearly defined and consistent over time. This will strengthen our internal capacity, clarify our role with members, partners, and donors, and more importantly, enhance our ability to execute to excellence on all fronts. We want to make sure these activities serve and enhance women's funds and support your capacity for more effective grant making and leadership in your local communities. Overall, WFN is committed to being relevant to members' needs and priorities and ensuring that our actions represent compelling expressions of our values. So the first step I've already taken is to embark on listening to members. And I have set a goal to try to have at least one touch point with every single member, all 155, by the end of my first year. So you'll hear from me by phone, by email, maybe in a webinar or an in-person visit, as resources allow. The listening calls have already started, and we're already learning so much that's valuable in helping us to shape plans for restructuring our membership services. For example, an aha moment that I had when we talked with our family foundations, they reminded my team that they don't have to fundraise like public foundations. They're, basically endowed by donors and family wealth. So a lot of the tools and the language that we use and we send out to everybody doesn't resonate. It's not relevant. But what they do want us to be helpful with is giving them information on emerging issues and what's coming around the pike, what are the emerging trends, so that they can keep their donors interested and engaged. So that's just one example. There are many more, I assure you. We're taking notes. And what are we doing with these notes? Realignment. So that's our operative word this year, is realignment. So all this leads to us reorganizing our own infrastructure around the functional areas of education and convening, policy and research, and collaborative grant making. You'll be hearing more about this in the coming months. I also look forward to a stronger partnership with INWF, and I want to thank Emilian for supporting and helping to host and plan and develop the Speak Out sessions, the first one which we're going to have after lunch, the Global Fund for Women, and the Ms. Foundation, so that key stakers know that we are united in our commitment to women and girls, and we're also united and share a commitment to each other's success. And that's important for us to do in a very visible and transparent and honest way. Let me talk a little bit about transition, finally. Transition is an important part of both WFN's future direction and the future of our network. Transition is a natural part of change for organizations and movements. It brings with it new ideas, new participants that fortify community and expand influence. I want to quote briefly about something about transition in the Catalyzing Networks for Social Change report that was released by the Monitor Institute. It says, networks are ever changing. Success is not the creation of a group and infrastructure that will exist in perpetuity, nor is success always about growth. Rather, success is a continuous evolution and adaptation of the needs of participants. A temporary collaboration may be all that is needed. Or, as is often the case, multiple sub-networks may emerge and spin off into separate projects. I want to close this section by calling on each of us to reflect not only on what you get from WFN, but also what you can contribute to the network. Most of you are familiar, as I mentioned earlier, with Making the Case. It was designed by WFN specifically to measure social change. And MTC, as we call it, talks about change in 5 shifts. Shifts in definition, shifts in engagement, shifts in behavior, shifts in policy, and the final shift is maintaining past gains. So I want to call on membership to consider the shifts we can make collectively to advance our purpose and our mission to improve the lives of women and girls. So I'm proposing 3 additional shifts that we can use to reframe how we work together. Number 1, a shift in defining the return on investment to include the currency of equity, justice, and human capital. In other words, currency can also be defined by our values. That's number 1. Number 2, a shift from transactional to transformational. This means accepting that not every interaction is going to yield a material exchange and a material return. In fact, relationships are what's transformative. It requires building trust and proving ourselves trustworthy, of operating from a place of abundance, not scarcity. There's a saying in Nigeria, why are we fighting mosquitoes when there's an elephant in the room? And I've heard a lot of mosquitoes buzzing in my ear. It is not important, believe me. So there's a lot of good money, as you just heard from Jackie. There is a lot of good philanthropic resources looking for great investment opportunities. And why not this network? The communities we serve deserve the best, and they deserve the best from us in meaningful and effective collaboration. And this leads me to the 3rd shift. Shift from our comfort zones to taking risk when we're not sure of the answers or the outcomes. As I said earlier, the scope of issues facing women and girls are interwoven in the constellation of culture, class, race, and complex socioeconomic conditions. It was Einstein who said, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome, a different result. So we're called on to be bigger in our thinking and bolder in our actions. So I invite you to think about these shifts as you hear from member funds in our speak-outs, as you hear from each other in the action labs. What is it going to take for us to be more successful in problem solving through a networked approach? Let this question guide you as you participate in all the sessions from here on out for the rest of the conference, the rest of the summit. And remember that we are partners and collaborators. So I invite you to share what is on your mind, what is important to your communities and networks where you work every day. So we cannot be WFN without who you are. It really is all of us. You all. So thank you. That's my introduction to myself and WFN and our way forward. I want to now...